Ever have that moment when the night seems to whisper secrets you'd rather not hear, when the dark corners of your mind start aligning with the shadows outside? I remember it so clearly. The rain was relentless, hammering against the windows of my cramped apartment, and the flickering streetlights painted distorted patterns on the walls. I was alone, or so I believed, until a single knock on the door shattered my solitude and sent my heart into a frantic race. At first, I assumed it was a stray delivery or perhaps a mistaken visitor, but something in the rhythm of that knock carried an urgency, a familiar cadence that stirred memories I thought were buried deep. I hesitated, the sound echoing in the silence of the night, until curiosity overpowered caution, and I crept toward the door. With each slow step, I recalled the fragments of my past, a past filled with secrets, betrayals, and moments of inexplicable terror that had once defined my existence. I reached out a trembling hand, the cool metal of the doorknob sending shivers down my spine, and as I pulled the door open, I was met with a sight that blurred the lines between nightmare and reality. There, standing on my doorstep, was a man whose eyes bore into mine with an intensity that made it impossible to look away. His presence was both unnerving and hypnotic, as if he held the key to an unfolding mystery that spanned years and lives intertwined in ways I could barely comprehend. He said nothing at first, simply extended a hand as if inviting me into a world where everything I thought I knew was about to be overturned. My mind raced. Who was this stranger, and how could he know the depths of my concealed life? The silence was deafening, punctuated only by the distant rumble of thunder and the soft rustle of leaves. In that charged moment, the line between friend and foe, truth and deception, blurred into an indistinguishable haze. Without fully understanding why, I let him into my apartment, a decision that marked the beginning of a journey into the darkest corridors of human nature. As soon as the door closed behind him, the familiar scent of my home was replaced by an unplaceable odor, a mixture of damp earth and old paper, as if the very air was saturated with forgotten confessions and unspeakable acts. He sat down in my worn-out armchair, his eyes never leaving mine, as though he was waiting for me to unlock a truth I had long denied. He began with a quiet confession, his voice barely audible over the storm outside, recounting a tale of loss, betrayal, and a relentless quest for redemption. Each word he spoke resonated with memories of my own life, memories of love gone wrong, of family secrets kept hidden behind locked doors, and of promises broken in the name of survival. It was as if he had come to mirror my darkest reflections, pulling me into a vortex of shared pain and unspoken truths. As the hours passed, his story unraveled like a delicate tapestry, each thread weaving together moments of terror and tenderness. He spoke of a time when trust was a currency too costly to spend, when every smile concealed a dagger, and every embrace harbored a hint of treachery. I found myself relating to his words, recognizing in them the echoes of my own past misdeeds and misfortunes. He recounted a particularly harrowing night when he had been betrayed by those he once loved, a night when the boundary between right and wrong had dissolved into a chaotic blur of blood and sorrow. The way he described the visceral fear of realizing that those you hold dear can become your worst enemies resonated deeply within me, stirring feelings I had long suppressed. In that moment, our conversation morphed into something else entirely. Silent, unspoken pact of mutual understanding, as if our souls were recognizing one another across the vast expanse of human suffering. The stranger's eyes darkened as he mentioned a mysterious figure from his past, a shadowy presence that had orchestrated a series of events leading to unimaginable loss. His narrative took a surreal turn as he described bizarre occurrences that defied logic, a series of cryptic phone calls in the dead of night, a strange symbol etched into the doorframe of his childhood home, and the inexplicable sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. With every detail, I felt as though I was being drawn deeper into an abyss, where the familiar comfort of reality was replaced by an eerie, relentless dread. The night wore on, and as the storm outside began to subside, our conversation took on an almost hypnotic quality. The stranger's words began to intertwine with my own memories, each story segued into another like a series of nested dolls, each revelation leading to another hidden layer of truth. I recalled a long-forgotten encounter with an old friend, a friend who had once warned me about the perils of digging too deeply into other people's secrets. That memory resurfaced with vivid clarity, and suddenly, the room felt charged with the weight of countless unseen eyes. It was as if every whispered confession, every half-remembered secret, was part of a grand tapestry of human vice and virtue, interwoven in a way that defied simple explanation. As the first hints of dawn began to break through the gloom, the stranger leaned forward, his eyes glistening with an intensity that bordered on madness. He revealed that his purpose in coming was not merely to recount his own sorrow, but to warn me of an impending reckoning, a reckoning that was destined to expose the hidden sins of those around me, including my own. The room seemed to close in around us, as he spoke of a secret society that thrived on the exploitation of human frailty, a society that manipulated events from behind the curtains, orchestrating tragedies with a chilling precision. His tone was both resigned and furious, as if he had wrestled with this reality for far too long and was now compelled to share it, no matter the cost. I listened, transfixed by the gravity of his revelations, as the narrative shifted once again. He began to recount a series of interconnected events that had, in one way or another, shaped the lives of everyone he had ever known. There was the scandal that had rocked my family years ago, a scandal shrouded in mystery, involving misplaced money, secret liaisons, and a betrayal so deep it had left scars that never fully healed. His words painted vivid pictures of clandestine meetings in dimly lit backrooms, whispered conversations behind closed doors, and the silent, haunting presence of guilt that loomed over every misdeed. I could almost see the ghostly figures of the past hovering around us, their silent judgments echoing in the stillness of the morning. As he delved deeper into his own personal torment, I found myself spiraling further into the recesses of my own hidden memories. I recalled the day I lost someone dear, a day marked by a sudden, inexplicable shift in fortune that left me reeling with regret and remorse. That day had started like any other. another, but ended with a violent confrontation that shattered the fragile illusion of safety I had clung to for so long. I remembered the cold, calculated betrayal of a friend, the desperate attempts to cover up a mistake that had cost someone their life, and the ensuing cascade of events that led to my current existence, a life haunted by the specter of choices made in the dark. It was as if the stranger's words had unlocked a chamber within me that I had long kept sealed, a chamber filled with memories too painful to face, yet too powerful to ignore. The conversation continued in this eerie, almost trance-like state, as we traded stories like reluctant confessions. Every revelation was a spark that ignited another flame of memory, until it became impossible to tell where his story ended and mine began. It was as if we were two sides of the same tarnished coin, bound together by the shared weight of unspoken sins and the relentless march of time. I could feel the pressure of those secrets bearing down on me, the inescapable truth that no one is truly innocent when the night falls and masks come off. And as the hours slipped by, the room seemed to pulsate with a strange energy, a mixture of dread and anticipation that made every word, every pause, feel like a prelude to something monumental. Then came a moment of surreal clarity, when the stranger's tone shifted from one of mournful confession to one of urgent determination. He spoke of a final act, a culmination of all the pain, betrayal, and darkness that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. It was as if he had been waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the ultimate secret, one that would shatter the remnants of my fragile reality. He described in harrowing detail an encounter that took place in a forgotten alleyway, under the sickly glow of a broken street lamp, where the lines between predator and prey had dissolved into a single, violent struggle for survival. His voice trembled as he recounted the scene, the vivid imagery of clashing bodies, the metallic taste of blood in the air, and the deafening silence that followed the final, fatal blow. In that instant, I felt the full force of the abyss that had been lurking in the shadows of my own life, threatening to engulf me completely. Yet even as the intensity of his narrative peaked, a strange calm settled over me, a calm born of a deep, unsettling understanding. I realized that every dark twist, every buried secret, was not merely a series of isolated events, but rather a continuum, a seamless cascade of moments that, when pieced together, revealed the true nature of our existence. The stranger's story had become a mirror reflecting my own inner turmoil, and in that reflection, I recognized the inevitability of fate. We were all caught in an intricate web of cause and effect, where every choice, every act of betrayal or redemption was interlinked in ways we could scarcely fathom. In that mesmerizing twilight between night and dawn, our conversation took on an almost hypnotic rhythm. The boundaries between reality and memory blurred further as he recounted an incident from his youth, a seemingly insignificant event that spiraled into a series of consequences far beyond his control. He spoke of a chance encounter on a rainy day, when a stranger's casual remark had ignited a chain reaction leading to a long-forgotten crime. As he detailed the subsequent events, his voice grew softer, laden with the weight of regret and a resigned acceptance of the past. I found myself reminiscing about my own youthful indiscretions, the reckless decisions made in moments of passion and desperation, and the lingering question of whether redemption was ever truly attainable. It was as if each word he uttered was not just a confession, but a key to unlocking a deeper, darker layer of the human soul, a layer where light struggled to penetrate and hope seemed like a distant, fading memory. The narrative, like a series of nested dolls, continued to unfold, each story seamlessly merging into the next. The stranger recalled a forbidden love that had once set his heart ablaze, a love so intense it defied societal norms and yet left scars that time could never heal. He described clandestine meetings in abandoned buildings, stolen kisses in shadowed corners, and the bittersweet agony of a love that was doomed from the start. As he spoke, I could sense the raw, unfiltered emotions coursing through his veins, the same emotions that had driven me to make choices I now deeply regretted. There was a beauty in the madness of it all, a tragic grace in the way our lives had been irrevocably altered by moments of passion and despair. And even as I listened, I knew that our stories, with all their intertwined threads, were far from reaching a conclusion. The storm of memories, emotions, and confessions reached its zenith as the first rays of morning light began to creep into the room. In that fleeting moment of clarity, the stranger's eyes locked with mine, and I sensed a profound resolve within him, a determination to confront the demons that had haunted him for so long. He told me that the culmination of our intertwined fates was near, that the final chapter of this dark saga was about to be written in blood and tears. Every word, every pause, was pregnant with the promise of an ending that was as inevitable as it was terrifying. And as he described the plan to confront the shadowy figures behind our mutual past, a cabal of hidden manipulators who had pulled the strings of our lives like marionettes, I felt a surge of both dread and exhilaration. In that final, breathtaking moment before the impending reckoning, I found myself teetering on the edge of two worlds, one of haunting memories and fractured identities, and another where the possibility of redemption flickered like a distant, fragile flame. The conversation had drawn me into a labyrinth of confessions and revelations, each layer peeling away to expose the raw, unvarnished truth of who we really are. There was no more room for pretenses, no more lies to cushion the fall. The past, with all its scars and secrets, was demanding to be confronted, and I knew that the journey ahead would force me to face the darkest corners of my soul. Then, as if in a final act of defiance against the relentless march of fate, the stranger leaned back and allowed a long, shuddering silence to descend upon us. The weight of every secret, every sin, pressed down on the room like an unyielding force. It was in that silence that I realized the truth we had been dancing around all night. The darkness within us was not something to be feared, but rather an inescapable part of the human condition, a shadow that only deepened the light of any chance at salvation. With a sudden, almost imperceptible movement, he reached into his coat and produced a small, weathered envelope. His hand trembled as as he slid it across the table toward me, and I felt the chill of inevitability in the simple act. Inside the envelope lay the evidence of years of clandestine operations, the names of those who had orchestrated the chaos in our lives, and a series of photographs that captured moments of horror and betrayal. My heart pounded as I opened the envelope, each document a piece of a puzzle I had long feared would never be solved. As I scanned the contents, a strange calm washed over me. A calm that came not from resignation, but from the fierce determination to reclaim control over my destiny. The photographs were undeniable proof of the conspiracies that had haunted me, linking me to events I had desperately tried to forget. In that instant, the stranger's earlier warnings coalesced into a single blazing truth. Every dark secret, every hidden sin, had led to this moment, where the past and present collided in an explosive confrontation. I knew that this was not merely a confession, but the catalyst for a revolution, one that would force me to confront the demons of my past head-on, to challenge the sinister forces that had manipulated my life for far too long. The weight of the revelation was both paralyzing and invigorating. I realized that the journey we had embarked upon was not just about unveiling hidden truths, but about the courage to face the inevitable consequences of our choices. The stranger's eyes, now filled with a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness, met mine with an unspoken promise that together we could dismantle the twisted web of lies that had ensnared us. In that charged moment, the narrative of our lives had shifted irreversibly. What had started as a series of isolated confessions was now the spark of a rebellion against a system built on secrets and deceit. And so, as the morning light grew stronger, casting long shadows across the room, I knew that the final act was imminent. The conspiracy, the betrayals, the hidden sins, they all converged into a singular, defining moment of reckoning. The stranger, with his envelope of damning evidence, became not just a mirror of my own darkness, but a beacon of defiance against a fate dictated by unseen puppeteers. The air was thick with anticipation, and for the first time in years, I felt a surge of clarity, a vision of a future where the oppressive weight of the past could finally be lifted. In that ultimate moment of truth, as I prepared to step into the storm of my own making, the door to my apartment burst open with a resounding crash. Figures clad in dark silhouettes flooded into the room, their presence announced by the clatter of heavy boots and the urgent murmur of voices. The orchestrators of our mutual nightmare had finally arrived, their calculated intrusion the final piece of a long-forgotten puzzle coming together in a maelstrom of chaos and revelation. Amid the ensuing pandemonium, I clutched the envelope tightly, its contents now a tangible promise of retribution. In the chaos, a flash of recognition crossed the stranger's face, a silent acknowledgement that our intertwined destinies had reached the point of no return. The ensuing confrontation was as brutal as it was swift, a clash of ideologies and hidden ambitions, where every whispered secret was laid bare, and every act of betrayal was met with swift, unyielding vengeance. The room became a battleground of conflicting truths, a chaotic symphony of shouts, gunfire, and the desperate scramble of those caught in the crossfire of their own hidden sins. For what felt like an eternity, the boundaries between friend and foe dissolved into the frenzied pulse of survival, until the last vestiges of the past were reduced to fragments scattered among the ruins of shattered dreams. And then, as the dust finally began to settle, and the voices faded into an uneasy silence, I found myself standing alone amidst the wreckage of a life that had been defined by secrets and shadows. The stranger, now battered and bruised, managed a faint smile, a silent gesture of acknowledgement that our journey had not been in vain. In that moment of quiet reflection, the layers of deception that had once bound us together began to peel away, revealing the raw, unvarnished truth that had always been there. That no matter how deeply we bury our sins, or how carefully we construct our facades, the darkness within us remains an inextricable part of who we are. With trembling hands, I reached out and gathered the remnants of that shattered world, a world where the past had finally caught up with us, where every act of betrayal had left its indelible mark. And as the first rays of a new day broke over the horizon, bathing the room in a soft, forgiving light, I realized that this was not the end, but the beginning of a long, arduous journey toward redemption. The battle had been fought, and while the scars of that night would forever serve as a reminder of the sins we carried, they also became symbols of the strength it took to confront them. In the final, decisive moment, as the last of our enemies retreated into the shadows from whence they came, I allowed myself a moment of introspection, a moment to acknowledge the truth that had been hidden beneath layers of fear and regret. The journey had been one of endless immersion into the darkest corners of human nature, a relentless descent into a realm where the boundaries between right and wrong, love and betrayal, blurred into an almost incomprehensible chaos. And yet, amid the ruins of our former lives, there emerged a sliver of hope, a promise that even in the depths of our despair, there lay the possibility of forgiveness and renewal. The storm of the night had passed, leaving behind a silence that was both haunting and serene, a silence that carried with it the weight of every confession, every dark secret that had been set free. And as I stepped outside, the cool morning air brushing against my face, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of clarity, a recognition that the journey through darkness had irrevocably altered the course of my life. The scars, both visible and hidden, were now the marks of a warrior who had faced his own demons and emerged on the other side, forever changed, yet somehow more whole. In that final breath of morning, with the echoes of the night's revelations still resonating in my soul, I understood that the journey of endless immersion was not defined by the darkness we encountered, but by the light we found within ourselves when we dared to confront it. The narrative of our lives had been rewritten, not by the hands of those who sought to control us, but by our own will to rise above the shadows. And as I walked forward into the uncertain promise of a new day, I carried with me the quiet conviction that every dark secret, every hidden betrayal, had ultimately led me to this singular moment of rebirth, a moment when the chains of the past were finally broken, and the true essence of who I was could finally emerge into the light. And then, in the final echoes of that tumultuous night, as I embraced the dawn with all its imperfections and promises, I felt an overwhelming surge of resolve, a resolve to never again be shackled by the darkness that once defined me. In that instant, the journey came full circle, and the whispers of the past faded into a distant murmur, leaving behind only the steady, determined beat of a heart ready to forge a new future. This is where our labyrinth of confessions and hidden sins finds its resolution, where the endless immersion into the dark corners of human nature finally gives way to the promise of redemption. The storm has passed, the secrets are laid bare, and now, standing on the precipice of a new beginning, I know that the only way forward is to embrace both the scars and the light that define me, forever changed yet resolute in the face of whatever comes next.